So I'll hand you over to Ray, and Ray will just do a brief overview of the SmartMister itself.
Okay. Well, the SmartMister is a device that we try and copy nature. So we biomimic how the sea air would work and how that boosts your immune system. So we've got a thing in our body called HOCl, hypochlorous acid. And if you were to cut yourself, your body in the skin produces hypochlorous acid. It rushes to an infection and basically eats up bacteria, funguses, and viruses. If you've got a problem in your lungs and you get a virus in through your lungs, it rushes to the lining of your lung and destroys viruses. So we bottled that, and then we put it into this device. And what happens next is the device, through the back of it, Michelle, if you can see on camera, but through the back of it, it sucks air in through an activated carbon filter and a HEPA filter. The air goes through here. It goes into a chamber, and then there's a UVC light that sterilizes the air. It runs around circulation, builds up a bit of momentum, and then it pushes up, it hits an ultrasonic atomizer, and then we turn it into a gas at a different rate, depending on the airflow. And there's a sensor on the back here that basically detects the temperature and the humidity of the room. That turns it into a gas. The gas is lighter, thinner than air, and it will travel into the air and basically go everywhere, in top of light switches, the ceiling, in the carpet, in the grain of wood. It goes everywhere. It's difficult to actually see because it's fine. I don't know if you can see it coming out in a black background. But the mist comes out there, it travels around, and if I go stick my eyeballs in it, etc., it's perfectly safe for humans. It kills viruses and funguses dead within a second. So that's roughly the device. There's also a deionizer, or bipolar ionization tool, that ionizes the air depending on the temperature and things, and basically dust particles stick to that and they fall to the carpet. So it strips big things like pollen out of the air, mushroom spores and other things. It lands on a surface, it settles there, and it gets into the grain. Because it's only 5 microns, it gets in the grain of the timber of your desk and clothing and chairs, and basically any virus that lands on that dies instantly. And then it just runs away in the background. We run that at night time. You come in the office to a perfectly sanitized office space that just smells nice and fresh because you've taken all the funguses out of there. And that's roughly the machine.
Cool. You can actually see it coming out now as well, Ray, which is always good. So
yeah, you can see on the blue background, but it's because it's so fine, it's difficult to see.
Absolutely. So we've got machines in our Bradford office, as you can see here, and obviously Ray's got them down in our Finch Hampstead office. So you could, by using the app, set ours to go off in the morning.
Yeah, I can turn the app on, and I can choose one of my devices. So I can have up to 320 devices. So I could manage other people's devices and basically choose this machine. I can set a schedule up to turn it on at 4 in the morning, turn it off at 4:30, or any other time. I can change modes of it from daily incremental mode or a deep clean. And the deep clean is done to one of the government standards. And then basically just go turn it on, and then that turns up. I can turn them on and off. And it can also tell me the temperature, the humidity of the room, and when they're running out of liquid, so that I can reorder the liquids as well.
So it's knowing as well. I mean, that's one thing we know is coming into, actually. We know that Pauline, one of the ladies that works for us, comes in at around about 5 o'clock in the morning. We know that it's truly sanitized and truly safe for her to come in on a morning.
Yeah, there's a couple of standards that we comply to. Basically, there's some of the European and British standards that we comply to. But one of them, you have to prove that when this goes on a surface, say a desk or a light switch, there's 100 touches before it's wiped off. So it has to persist for so long, which is legally 1 hour. And on the test, we did 3 hours. So if you don't wipe this off, and it eventually builds up a white powder on the things. If you don't rub this off, it will last for 18 hours. If you rub it off with a microcloth and or your elbows or your clothing, etc., it persists for about 3 hours, and legally it only has to be 1. But yeah, it stays on your desk for a long time after you've turned it off. So Pauline comes in the morning, turns it on, you come in and the surface you've got your elbows on, there can't be any viruses on it. Yeah, it's completely devoid. And it's even to the standard, which is 13272 of manufacturing food on your desk. So where your elbows are, you can literally prepare food, and there will be no bacteria or spores or anything on it.
So this product would be perfect for something like people getting back to work as far as hot desking and things are concerned. So if
Yeah, your hot desk, you wouldn't have to worry about the person before you, and it will remain sanitized, and you could, maybe just top it up or take one of the little ones and top it up during the daytime. But yeah, definitely.
So for example, a school, there was a school and a class was doing a music lesson. Literally, the kids could go out, bring the SmartMister in, put it on to sanitize, and then the next group of children could come in and do an English class.
Yeah, one of the schools we did a test in does that. They put it into classroom number 1. They run it for 15 minutes, sanitize it. They've got a little meter to check that it's got there everywhere. And then 20 minutes later, the kids go into that room and they do room number 2 and then room number 3 and just keep moving along. So they're constantly sanitizing the rooms behind the kids that have just left. Wow. And in between breaks at lunchtime, they do the corridors and things like that as well. So they put it on a trolley and pull it around. And they use the particle sensor to basically check that it's in the air. So if that number goes above 47, it's in the air. It's above 144, just sanitizing all surfaces. And we've not had that on very long, but if I turn that on, this will soon go up to the government levels of sanitation for surfaces. And that will get right underneath the desk in this chewing gum that's underneath the desk, and it will get to the handles of the chairs and the carpet and the light switches and the door handles, everywhere. Everywhere the air gets to, this will get to as well. So, we've only turned it on a couple of seconds and it's gone from 100 odd to climbing up. So when that goes above 144, we're at the government levels. So my phone that's in here, the gas is landing on this and effectively attacking all the viruses and funguses on my phone. And for me, it just smells clean. It just smells if you go into the seaside.
Absolutely. So as far as using the machine itself is concerned, how do we, what kind of surfaces will it do at one time? So what kind of coverage will it do?
There's 2 modes in it. There's what we call auto mode, which is to the 12727. There's a standard that basically says you're doing a deep clean. So if you've got a track and trace scenario where you've had to close down, which I've lost my database thing, and that the only way to open up is to do a deep clean, you can basically turn this on auto mode, leave it on for the appropriate time for the size of the room, and then go back and effectively you can open back up again. And then there's Chinese translation of small room, baby mode on this, which is basically we'll do an incremental daily backup. So you do it on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and it keeps it topped up. And that way all the surfaces are always sanitized. So there's 2 modes on it. And literally all you do is work out the size of the room, divide that by a number, and then put that number in minutes into the app and turn it on for whatever minutes it is for that room. Or if you want to be more scientific about it, you can take a particle sensor, you can go into the room, make sure that goes down to nearly 0, go put this in the far whatever in the room, go to the furthest away from where you think you want to sanitize. When this gets up to 700, take that number, it took how long to do that, multiply by 3 and put that in minutes, and that'll sanitize the room to full government specs. And in tests, we're 60% higher than the highest government standards as well. So we are better. We're better than the British standards at the moment. I think about 60%.
Because at the moment, obviously, the last year since COVID's been, around, all we've talked about is different chemicals and alcohols that are the things that are going to clean your hands and clean your spaces. And obviously, this is a completely organic product. The people have been talking a lot about fogging and machines like that. How is the SmartMister different?
Well, a fogger is one of the only ways that people knew how to do a deep clean of a premises, because it's been used in airline industry, and it's been used in food, and it's been used in microbial, biological warfare things. So it's a way of doing that. But they use quite harsh chemicals, and people have PPE and masks on and breathing apparatus, and you have to tape up the rooms to stop the gases going out into the corridors. And then you can't put things like books or computers in the room. You have to tape all those up because it can destroy those. This is an organic material that's in our body, and instead of being a wet thing that can be soaked into a book, this is a dry product. I know that it looks like steam that comes out of this, but unlike a fogger, which is big and noisy and chemical, and generally about £3,000 to fog your premises, well, this is peanuts and money. If I take my phone, she's got a few dirty marks on it, but it's dry. If I put that over there and run it, it's still dry. So there's no wetness to this. It's just it just looks like steam, but it's not. It's actually a dry gas and powder that comes out. So this is an organic material, like a hand sanitizer that's 70% alcohol. You squirt it on your hands, you rub it in. The difference in this one is I squirt it in my eyes and my tongue, and it's actually all it will do is it will improve my health. It'll help my skin, it'll help my eyes and clean them. And then the mist in here is getting quite full now. And all it does is my skin will absorb that. So a link to a YouTube video on our thing that explains how there's some doctors up at the Royal Infirmary in Edinburgh have done a study of inhaling this and how it acts like an antibiotic and improves your immune system by a factor of 7. So your own immune system works hard at killing things. So it's a totally organic, natural product that's in all mammals. We just bottled it and then found a way of distributing it to a room successfully so it gets everywhere. Yeah.
And this is the thing, isn't it, going forward, Ray? It's not just for, COVID. People are going to come back to work, people are going to come back to schools that haven't had a cold, that haven't caught anything off anybody for over a year. So actually coming back into sanitized, safe workspace is something really, really important, isn't it? Yeah,
the so-called herd immunity. We've all been away from each other for so long that when we get back together, all of our pathogens that are not compatible with your neighbour are all going to start to attack each other. Just like when school kids go back to school and all the adults suddenly get a cold. Similar sort of things can happen. This will strip out mushroom spores in the air, which might not sound impressive, but a tremendous amount of like the cold virus and things like herpes virus, they are transferred through mushroom spores in the air and land on people's skin, and then effectively they rot and get into your skin. And then the vitamin B gets destroyed, so you end up creating herpes virus. So this would stop that happening. It stops things like pollen in the summer from going into the air and becoming electrically charged, which means it sticks in your nasal passages and agitates your sinuses, so it stops all that. So yeah, going forward, it's a great thing. And after September, there's going to be things like the Wellbeing Standard and the Clean Air Act in April this year, September for Wellbeing, in a building that occupies more than 16 people in a confined space. Any new building now, you're going to have to prove that you've put measures in to clean the air, and all buildings have got until 2025 to upgrade. But there are going to be a whole bunch of rules to say you must produce good quality air, and the air has to be to these standards, and those standards are just starting to come out. We got our first certificate on the 9th of January for a standard that's coming out this April, so it's not far away now. And that is the first automated delivery system of indoor sanitation system. So there are standards coming out, let's conform to it.
And this is a fair point. I mean, this is something that Ray and his team have been working on for well over a year now to get this product to market and to market right. There's a lot of products out there that claim to do certain things but can't actually prove it. And that's the one thing that Ray does time after time, is prove exactly what the SmartMister is doing and what levels it's doing to. I mean, last year, a pub that had been told to shut down because it had a breakout, Ray managed to get it back open in an hour, purely by using the SmartMister in there.
Yeah, that was basically doing a swab test like the NHS do. So if you go onto our YouTube channel and look for this NHS thing, they're using swab tests, and they'll swab door handles and they'll swab above handles and desks, etc. So they do that before so if they get an outbreak, they do that. That gives them a numbers, clean score number. So say that was 700, and that says this desk is full of things that will cause viruses in the future. They then run SmartMister, and then they wipe it, they surface off with a microcloth, and then they take a swab on it. And if there's more than 73% reduction in the life force that's on there, they're effectively allowed to open again. So you can do this test, send it back to people like us or an independent lab. We can give you a report. Or there's a machine like the NHS have bought, is a handheld unit that you take this swab and put it inside there. And then that will give you an instant go, no go. It'll just say pass or fail. And then that links up to a database, and then that does a proper lab report on site. You just do that and it says pass or fail. So there's a way of testing afterwards. And like in that pub case in the chiropractor we did, they can prove that they've made a difference in the cleaning, and they don't have to spend hours and hours wiping down with disposable cloths that they throw away and etc. They can basically just turn this on, give it a wipe afterwards, and prove that it's clinically clean now.
Yeah, absolutely. And that was
14, yeah.
Exactly, and that's what got the pub back open. I mean, you did another case study with the chiropractor as well that got them pretty much back up and running as well when they thought they would have to shut down in the last pandemic.
Yeah, they were last March chiropractor I go to, were told to close down because they are skin-to-skin contact. And in their scenario, I couldn't go, so I said, why can't? And they said, well, we need to be able to prove that we've clinically cleaned it and there's no viruses we can pass over, an insurance company will fail it. So I offered to put that in, which I'd done on another project before, put that in, and then we measured the place before, and then they paid for the lab reports, and they gave that to the governing body, and improved. In their case, they had made a 94% reduction in all the pathogens that were around the place, so quite dramatic. And then they were allowed to open, so as long as they kept it up. But that meant instead of having an hour of cleaning between people, where they used to see them every 15 minutes, so it was like 15 minutes plus an hour, so their income was way down. They put this in, they run it at night time, come in to sanitize in the morning, and then they just top this up every half an hour on the premises. And then they've got a wall-mounted version of one of these, and even though it's been off for a while, it still shows that it's above 47, so it's still enough to sanitize the air. And then they could prove that it was all clean enough. They just then changed the cloth that's on their beds, and that's all. And they could open up again. So they went back to full income. So they didn't spend a whole lot of money compared to the £3,000 they paid for the deep clean. And after paying £3,000, they said, well, I can't afford to open because I just can't get my money back. Whereas this they put in, and then it runs in the background, and in their case, it's about a month and a half they made them liquid, and that's all. So it's next to no cost for them compared to what it was, and they get all the extra income. So
well, the thing is as well, it smells clean as well. That's the
yes,
SmartMister solution does smell clean.
Yeah, they ended up with new customers because they got a sticker on the window on the outside saying we sanitize our premises overnight with SmartMister to this government level, and they got customers coming in because they thought, oh, what are you doing different? And as soon as they walk in, they say, oh, it smells really clean as well. So they trusted it more. So he's ended up with actually new customers that are not going to other chiropractors in that town. So
yeah, absolutely. And the thing that we obviously the product is a surface sanitizer, and that's ultimately, you know, what we got it to the standards of. But actually, within our own buildings, you know, there was somebody last year, wasn't there, Ray, that's got particularly bad allergies in the summer.
yeah, hay fever. Yeah, we've got a chap that suffers hay fever badly, so he's on his app the day before, making sure that, you know, what's predicted, and then he'll come in taking tablets and closing windows and things. Everybody else in the summer wants to open windows, so we've been running this at night, and this year we back onto farmland, and he never actually closed the windows and never had a problem. And then when it was the season was coming over, I was asking him about it, and he says, "Do you know, I've not actually had a problem this year," and he never thought about this. And then basically that was the only difference, that we put this in, and then he ended up he's taking one home as well. So this year he's basically taking one home, and he's doing that in his house now. But yeah, he never had a single problem, because it destroys the pathogens that are making up the pollens, etc. It kills them, makes them inert, and then the ionizer makes them fall to the ground. So they're just not in the air. So although we don't call this an air sanitizer, it achieves that purpose. But there isn't a legal standard until this April for air sanitation. So until after April, we can't claim it, because there is no standard to be judged against. And that standard was introduced on the 9th of January, but it doesn't become law until April. And then we're doing the test next week, and that lab report will come back to that, and we'll be able to claim it from the beginning of April. So it's, you know, we will be one of the very first in the country to have an air quality system as well as a surface sanitizer in one unit.
Wow.
As well.
And again, you know, I mean, I know this is quite a vanity kind of point, but actually, since we've been using it in our offices in Bradford, we've got quite a few girls that work upstairs, and our skin is so much softer. We put it on sometimes during the day and things like that, because it does seem to help. And Stuart as well, actually.
Yeah, Stuart's. There's one of the best documentation is a thing about how it changes your skin, and you can Google white blood cell chasing bacteria. But basically, your skin will absorb it, and when it absorbs it, it then triggers the production of HOCl inside your body. So you attack things from inside and outside, and the A blood cells in your body will basically be supercharged. They run at a factor of 10 times normal speed, and they'll seek out they'll seek out pathogens, if you want to call it that, bacteria, etc., and destroy them really quickly. So it boosts your own immune system. But the result of all that as well is that your skin has a little bit of lubricant, a salt in it, and it feels really smooth.
Yeah.
And one of the tests for this is that if you go into a room, this has not been on, rub your hands together. Yeah, you remember that feeling. Turn this on for at least 3 minutes so that it's in the air. Or if you've got a particle sensor, turn it on until it gets to about 280. And then if you rub your hands, they feel really smooth, and you can't figure out why. But if you go outside the room and go outside into the sun, etc., and rub your hands, it feels really smooth. But if I was to touch a handle that's got a virus on it, the stuff that's making it really smooth is remaining there for about 3 hours, and the virus will die because it's on my skin. Although you can't feel it, touch it, you can slightly taste it, but right now this mist is covering all my skin, and it's sanitizing me and my clothing and my hair. And the hair is probably more important than skin. But that is, I can touch things, and when I'm doing that, I'm sanitizing what I'm touching for hours afterwards, or an hour. So about 100 touches. Okay. So yeah, it's really good for your skin. In the States, it's sold as a skincare product. They sell it in a liquid form. Boots the Chemist sells this for £94 in that size. Is a fungal prevention thing, so you squirt it on people's feet with fungal nail problems to get rid of that. And in the States, it's sold as a skincare product, so you squirt it in your eyes and your face and your hands, etc., and it makes your skin smoother. And they sell it just for that. And it's used in food industry, put on apples, cheese, corn on the cob, fish, it has many other uses in different industries.
So if you leave your apple or your sample or your your apple out overnight, it's going to be fine to come back to and eat in the morning.
Yeah, no problem. It's used as a preservative because if apples is the stuff that makes it go brown, is mushroom spores. So they basically attack it, and then the acidity of the apple eats away at it, and then the fungus that's produced came from mushrooms. So that one, to decay an apple, you squirt this on, and the spores that land on the apple basically die when they land, and then become inert. So it's just like eating dust that's in the air that you breathe in and out all the time. So yeah, it's great as a preservative, and this is just squirts straight in without a problem.
So as far as the couple of things that we haven't touched on, Ray, as far as the actual liquid's concerned, how long would that last?
Depends on the size of the room, but in a normal office that has about 40 to 60 people, it's about 32 days a month, say.
So one bottle?
One bottle, for 5 layers of that, this will take 5.3 layers. So you just pour all that in first time you're using it. It uses up 5 layers, leaves a little bit inside, tells you to reorder, and it's generally about 32 days in a good size room. Bigger rooms, slightly less, smaller rooms, more, but it's roughly.
It should last you a month. Okay, cool. Cleaning wise, what about maintenance for the machine?
That's quite straightforward if you like to keep up on things. So when it runs out of liquid, just at the end of the month, summertime it runs out of liquid, and it's hard for you to see there. There's a little tiny light in, but the liquid is here on that. So when that runs out and it gets to about there, you need to replace it and take the lid off. Yeah. It's going to drip a little bit because it's not empty, but take the tank out, so that's got the liquid inside there. You just unscrew that and fill it up again. And then you would effectively turn it upside down if there's any liquid left in it, and then wipe it round with a cloth with no lint in it, ultrasonic toothbrush, and then clean the transducer and wipe off any excess salt that comes in through the seals. And as long as you do that, that's kind of it. The only other thing you may have to do is the HEPA filter. Take a microcloth and clean out any dust that might build up. And then maybe 6 months later or something, run around with an air gun and just get rid of any rubbish that's on. But that's pretty much it. There's not a lot else. We've had one unit that we've not cleaned deliberately to see the worst case scenario. And it's about 4 months of use before it gets so bad that it starts to not work properly. And then this device will turn itself off when it can't, when the efficiency runs to about 80% efficient and it can't compensate, then it turns itself off. Or if you put in a dodgy liquid, if you put in a HOCl that's not a saline version of it, it will turn off after so many meters that go through it as well.
And that's an important point. Ray's spent a lot of time on developing this product and getting it to the standard that it's at, but there's been a lot of R&D gone into it. So these two products work together. SmartMister solution and the SmartMister work together. Anything else that goes in it, the warranty's not covered, and we can't guarantee that it's going to work because it probably will break.
Yeah, it's you can buy HOCl from lots of companies. So HOCl was originally invented in Britain. It was invented in the First World War to cure people's open wounds. And it's used in hospitals to stop wounds festering. And there's a fungus that eats your skin and it stops that. But those versions only last, once you've opened them, they're exposed to air, they only actually last for about a week. And then they start to degrade, so they don't work on viruses, etc. as well. But this one is encapsulating saline, so if I open that up, and it's exposed to air, that will still have a 1 year shelf life because it's encapsulated in saline. And then we break the saline's bond with the ultrasonics on this. And at that point, we split. I don't know how technical you want it, but we split the hydrogen, the sodium, and the salt all off, and then recombine them. So this is made a very deliberate way. So we get this made to a formula that means that we break the bond in this, and that way you can have a shelf life of a year, and you don't have to worry about it. Whereas if you put some of the cheaper ones in, they only have a shelf life of about a week. They generally claim a month, but it's not a month at 100% efficiency. It drops down for every day that it's exposed to air. And then the colour of this is simple, is a UV barrier. It's actually purple, it's not black. It's really dark purple, but it's a UV barrier so that sunlight doesn't affect it. But if you put normal stuff into sunlight, it turns into chlorine gas, which is poisonous. So, we've encased it in saline so that it becomes poisonous, and it's protected against UV light. Even the squirty version is in a black casing that is UV protected as well. There's a lot of thought into preserving it so that you can buy that 1 month, and if you don't get around to selling it for 2 months, 3 months, you still know that back out to a customer, nearly a year later, you'll still be good to go. Whereas some of the other ones, you just can't. So we look for it in this, we check the resistance of it, and then adjust accordingly.
And again, it's reciprocal business coming back in, isn't it, for dealers? So I know there are a lot of companies out there that are selling this on a contract kind of basis, where they include, say, 1 5 litre, and it's a certain amount a month. And then, if there's excess use, then obviously they'll get charged for the extra. But again, it means that the customers are coming back to you guys for the products. The other thing I was going to mention, May, was air conditioning. When you've got the actual instructions that come with the machine, it does show where to put the product, doesn't it? Yeah,
we've done a little diagram in the middle of the manual that explains how to place it in an office. So away from opened windows, generally not too close to walls and radiators. And then if you put it next to a plant, it will make the plants grow really quick, so you might not want that. But away from, so you don't have it directly underneath, say, a smoke alarm or an air conditioning unit. This, when it goes into the air, its goal is to, the World Health Organization say that the humidity of a room for an office should be 40 to 60%. And we try and get the room to be 50% on this. So this adds humidity into the room, and take it 50. And then an air conditioning unit, generally in this country, isn't an air con, it's a dehumidifier, so it takes humidity out so that the water molecules in the air are not there to be heated up. That's why it feels cooler. So when this goes into the room, an air con thinks it's effectively more humidity, turns on and sucks it all out. So they fight each other. So you just want to make sure that this doesn't run at the same time as the air con. So run it at 4 o'clock in the morning, the air con's probably not on. And then the other thing is that if you use this too much, because you like the smell that it creates, or you're worried about viruses and you keep turning it on during the day as well, like a lot of people do, it will eventually build up a white powder. So normally you wipe that powder off on the surface of the desk, when it builds up. But on a photocopier, it's at the top of the ceiling, nobody ever gets around to doing it. So the white powder will build up there. That powder is salt, and any virus that lands in your air con will die. So you don't get any Legionnaires' disease, and you've ended up sanitizing the air conditioning unit. But you can also clog up the inlets that you need to clean off when you go to use it. And if you put it, say, directly below a smoke alarm, and you leave this on, and you didn't measure your room, and you've turned it on for 1 hour or 2 hours, and it really should have been on for 20 minutes, you'll probably overwhelm your smoke alarm, and the smoke alarm will think it's got smoke and set an alarm off at 4 in the morning.
Although, to be honest, we've got a few of these in with the NHS and places like that, haven't we, Ray? Where it depends on your smoke alarm, doesn't it? Where one where actually in a small room, not dissimilar to this kind of size in the NHS, where they've left the machine on for 2 hours and actually not managed to set any alarms off, but they really should have set some alarms off, because it was like something from stars in their eyes when they walked out.
Yeah, it's the ones that normally set off are things like you've left it on a room with the door closed, someone goes in, so it's turned on at say 5 in the morning and someone's come in early at 6. So the room is saturated, they've opened the door, and all of a sudden that rushes out. And then what it does there is a thermal change. So the sensor actually thinks that something's changed, there's a big thermal change to it, and it doesn't know whether it's heat or cold or what. And because it doesn't know, it just sets the alarm off. So there's things like that. Most of the good quality alarms don't go off.
Yeah.
So if you put a number on it, it's about 8% that do go off. And only if you have it next to it, and only if you use it too much, and only if you don't place it properly. But those ones go off generally because they're just a phototransistor, they shine a light through into a little mirror, and if the light gets disrupted, they presume that's smoke. Whereas the good ones actually detect what's in the smoke, and it is smoke, and it's got soot in it. So it's just because the particles are bigger when the mist is going out that some alarms get confused. It doesn't happen much.
Cool. So that is so that's the SmartMister, and that is the unit that does the deep sanitation, isn't it, Ray? That can get offices back open, is up to all government standards, etc. And then now we've brought out the portable.
Well, the big one's on power cords, so it only works when you're running it on a trolley, running it around, or keeping it in one place. So it's very difficult to take into the toilets. And then this one has a built-in battery and a reservoir of liquid. So effectively, you can open it up and you've got a reservoir of liquid, 0.5 litre. And then it gives out a mist. And this mist will fill up a small space, like I say, a toilet or a meeting room desk. So the desk that you're on now, you'd run this for a few minutes and it will sanitize just that small space around it. And it's got a plug it into USB if you've got one, or put it into the toilet until the battery runs out, and you get about 4 hours at full use. And then there's a mode that turns it on, off, and you'll get sort of 8 hours on that.
So this is fab for things like, obviously, so the SmartMister's been on overnight, it's sanitised all the surfaces. We then come into a meeting room like this where there's 2 or 3 of us. We can put this on and feel safe knowing that actually our space is actually sanitised. Yeah,
it does your own personal space. We've tested it in small meeting rooms with 4 people in it, and we then ran around with the sensors and checked, and then we've swapped people's clothing, etc., to see before and after. And this will do a small meeting room, sort of like 16 meters square sort of thing, or 4 to 6 people. Or we've put them into a taxi company that are putting this in the taxi in between clients, and they're nipping in for a cup of tea in their office. And then this sanitizes the taxi after the last person left. And they keep, the great thing about taxis, that when I listened to them, was the taxis all said that it doesn't smell of BO anymore. Because the one that we tried is all taxis, and they pick up commuters on the train that have been on for an hour in the heat. So they're generally hot and sweaty, jump in a taxi right afterwards, and then it smells and this deodorizes within about a few minutes. So there's no odor in the taxis anymore. So taxi drivers love it for that. So they're just basically putting that in and running it in between people.
Well, it's great for things like that, isn't it? Anything where there's any kind of swap of people coming in and out of anything, it's perfect for. So, like you say, taxis, cars, just to make us all feel that little bit more safe that we want to do now. I've already got one of these, knowing full well that at some point, hopefully soon, that I'll be able to see my family and my parents and things, and be able to have them in the car. And I know that I will use this before they come in.
Yeah, we've got a couple of nice ones when we're first testing it. We give this little document with it. So this will go and say like a cafe or a fish and chip shop's counter. And it says this mist is protecting staff and customers to these government standards. And at the back of it, there's things like, is it compliant? What's your HOCl made of? Is it safe to use? Is it good? Is it safe for people with asthma? So all the questions and answers, and then some information and videos you can look at. So you put that in the shop counter, and then you put that, and then people trust that you're taking measures to, when you're doing transactions of money and things, that's sanitized. But I've got a cleaner that takes this with her when she goes to people's offices, etc. She puts that on the desk, takes that around her, and now she feels safe about going into people's offices that might have coronavirus, because she was almost panicking that somebody in that office has got a virus and it's on all the surfaces and she's touching the surfaces. And now she just doesn't worry, she just carries this with her.
Well, I mean, ultimately, our Data Direct's main business has always been, you know, the photocopier industry, which is where it started off, and engineers going out to see customers. You know, this would be absolutely ideal for them to take in with them and have at the side of them while they're working on a machine. You know, rather than just giving them that extra layer of protection.
Yeah. So you can, it's like, I think we've started a campaign of giving these one to new dealers so they can take round to do that. So if they're out servicing the photocopier, they'll take that with them and basically run it in their area, and they know that wherever they are is sanitized and they can't spread any germs to any other people as well. And then that tends to be, well, the person of the office says, what's that? And they would explain, the person of the office wants to buy one.
Yeah.
So they've been selling those as an extra thing as well.
Exactly, exactly.
Yeah, it's lovely. This one's lovely and simple. I've got this in my house next to the entrance. So if we get, a courier that's dropping something off, that's in the hall. It's running away, and then basically my hall is sanitized. The only problem is I've got a big plant there, and it's grown about that much extra in 2 months.
Oh, honestly, our plants in our office upstairs are just unbelievable. The green ones have just gone absolutely nuts.
Yeah, they really love it. They really grow quickly. That's when I first started to use this, was in a project in Singapore to grow lettuce. And it stopped all the little beasties getting on the lettuce and eating it. And then we found that actually made the plants grow quicker and more healthy, and they were tastier. And that's where I started with it last year, a year and a bit actually. But yeah, it makes plants grow really quickly. It also does similar to your hair as well. So it's really good for your hair.
We always say every week, don't we? We say how good it is for your skin and things like that. And actually, Ray's actually 145, so that's just showing how good.
My hair does need to grow back because I did have a lockdown haircut that was very short.
Yeah,
it does need to grow back.
So also moving on, we've got the portable. So we've got the original, which is the deep sanitization, which everybody still needs in their offices. We've got the portable that is for small spaces and personal space. And then we've also got the car one.
Yeah, the car one is basically very similar to that, but there's two big things different. One, this one, that doesn't fit in a cup holder, and this one fits in a cup holder. The other thing is that a car is designed to stop CO2 buildup, so you don't get drowsy when you're driving. So it evacuates air and pulls out pollens and things, and they're filtered out. So this one actually gives out a thicker version of the mist than this one does. This one's 320 milliliters, that's 500 milliliters. And this one gives out slightly more, but it circulates around in the car's air system. So this one would be no good if you were to use it in your toilet, because it works slightly different from that. And in this, you have to power up. So you power that up through a USB from your car, and you then have another USB out that you could plug in your iPhone, etc. And then that one, it gives out what looks like a fatter mist to, yeah, put against my shirt, it's probably easier to see. So it's actually the same quantity of the liquid that's giving out, but this one's giving it out in a different way that works with a car's air system, air circulation, and it changes the way CO2 works. So this one and that one are both giving out 40 milliliters per hour. Yeah, but they look really different as they're used. So USB in, USB out, drops in the cup holder, and sanitize your car. So if you're sharing the car with someone, after about a minute, you literally don't have to worry about breathing any pathogens from person to person, because it's part of the 17272 test, which is one of the standards. Should that one, sorry. So if you Google BS 17272, there's a test that we had to do there, which is put it in a tank and blow viruses in a half a meter and change to see what survived and died. And it died under half a meter. So you basically put that in your car and you can car share, you don't have to worry about it. And it deodorizes your car, stops it smelling of rotten stuff.
Fab. Brilliant. So what we'll do now is we will open up for questions. But first of all, I'll just run through as far as the one thing that we won't mention at all today is pricing. The Zoom meeting is recorded and this gets uploaded to our YouTube channel. So it's something that everyone can see. So we won't mention any pricing. So if you need any pricing at all, then please speak to your account manager. Obviously, we've talked about the SmartMister itself, the Mini-Mister and the Car-Mister. But also so things like the particle sensor will be on there as well. So what you'll get after this meeting is you will receive an email with the link to the YouTube channel. You'll also receive some flyers on how the product works and each individual product itself, along with the Q&As. And then, like I say, if you've got any more questions, then direct them to either Ray or your account manager, who'll be able to help you with Ray. So right, we'll open it up to everyone and everyone can fire away with questions.
And one last thing I forgot to mention, we've also got things like the caution safety reports that we give to fire brigade and ambulance service. So the ambulance service and fire brigade have got a document so that if they have to go into this because someone turned it on for 12 hours instead of 12 minutes and all the alarms go off, they actually know all the safety of it, and it's passed all the NHS standards for it. And there's only 2 companies got this in Britain.
That's really important. I think it's, again, just reiterating that point of how much work has gone into this product. There might be a lot of machines out there that claim to do things, but this one actually, you know, does everything that we say it does.
Yeah. Okay. Any questions? Go on.
That's good.
Oh, no, it's not a good one. Ask me an awkward question.
I'm trying to think of one for you, Ray.
Hi, Ray. It's William. The Car-Mister for the car. Yeah. How long does that need to stay on for?
It depends on the size of the car and depends on if it's summer or winter, air conditioning on. But it needs to be on for 3 minutes minimum time for it to get to a standard, and it's normally about 12 to 15 minutes before it's saturated an entire cabin, which is based on 8 cubic meters. Because the car is constantly changing its volume, there's 16 cubic meters in flow. So it's about 12 minutes. The instructions basically say turn it on for about 15 minutes. It just depends on the size of the car, but it's about that.
Cool, thank you.
It's if you use it in like a commercial wagon that is, you know, got 6 people in it, sort of like a minibus type things, then it might be slightly longer. But from experience, the people we're giving it to, they tend to leave it on all the time because it makes the car smell nice. Mm-hmm. So they end up leaving it on for the whole journey, say an hour. Yeah, it doesn't do you any harm. It just, you know, makes you a little bit redder on the face because your skin's reacting to it. But it's, you know, you can leave it on for as long as you want, but turning it on the first thing, 1 minute to 3 minutes before it's saturated the whole cabin. Yeah.
Cool, thank you.
Okay. Anybody else?
You know, how many SmartMisters would you need in a room, Ray? Say, for example, if it was like a 200 or 300 square feet, would you recommend using one, or would you place them in different? So I get confused in feet because I'm Scottish and we never used feet in Scotland. So it'll do a room. They'll take about 60 people in it, and it'll do like 110 meters square. So I presume that's like double that for feet. 200 and something foot squared. It depends on a lot of things, like the temperature of the room, whether there's open windows, whether there's closed doors, you know, the shape of the room. Is it an L shape? Is it a big open plan room? These sort of things. That per hour, there's enough of this coming out to completely saturate to beyond the levels you need to in 185 meters squared and times that with 3 per cubic. So a lot, big rooms. So that you've got that on the instruction manual as well? Yeah, instructions tell you how to work it out and the sizes. It also has a minimum number, so it's no good for a room that's only 4 meters squared. Yeah, so a little toilet space would be no good for, because you'd only need to leave it on for 1 minute. Yeah, you'd be better off with one of the little things. So in a small thing, you could maybe say a small meeting room, yes, you
you could put that on if it's 6 people, size of the meeting room, turn that on for 5-10 minutes. Or a classroom that's got 32 kids, it's 15 minutes in that. So it depends on the size of the room, how big it goes, and how many plants there is, and soft furnishings, and lots of other things. So I've put how to work it out on the manual, and I've got some documents on our dealer Dropbox folder we give away on how to be more exact. Or you can take the sales tool, the particle sensor, and turn this on one end of the room, go to the other end of it, and then count in minutes when this number gets to the right thing, and go, right, if I multiply that by 3, that's exactly how long I should leave this on for. And it might say, 16 minutes, and you thought it should go for an hour. So some rooms are different from other rooms. It's a hard
I think that's the particle sensor is really important. I think just to, obviously to insurance level standards, it's the actual swabs that you will need to do for insurance level standards, which obviously we can go into a little bit more detail. I know you did previously. But to actually just show where it's getting to, the particle sensor is a really good sales tool to actually say, right, well, that room, 20 foot over there, actually it's already in there, so you don't need another one in there. It's just proving that to the customer, isn't it, and just giving them that peace of mind.
Yep. And that also shows you that, so right now that's way up at 999, which is the highest this meter goes. We do a big version that will tell you exactly that, I've had that on, and the little one on, and there's no windows in this room, and there's too much of it in this area, so it doesn't need to be that high. So what happened now is this will eventually, if I was to do that every day, it'll build up a fine white powder on everything because there's too much in the air, and that's got nowhere to go, so it eventually builds up, which is great for killing viruses. Anything that lands in that powder will die instantly. It just looks unsightly. So if that number is sitting there, I should be turning this off by now. I leave it on because I quite like the smell, and it makes the air seem fresh. It's like sea air. It's like when you go down to seaside and you get salt in the air and the ozone is slightly changed. So sea surf. Oh, turn the light on.
Any questions, anyone?
Ray, I've got a quick question. It might sound a bit silly. Is it the same solution for all of the devices?
Yeah, the liquid's the same on all of them, even on the squirty versions of it. They're all the same. The only time that it would change is slightly in the future. We're going to make a more industrial size one for doing big cardboard boxes and warehouses, and that one's got a very slight difference in solution. But all of these ones that will do, under 300 meters squared buildings are all the same one for everything. Yeah. And that liquid's been around for more than 25 years. It only became affordable in the last 2 years. But it's been around a long time. It has many British standards, European standards, organic labels, and many uses in food and medical industry. Mm-hmm. So
the one thing that we're quite happy to do as well is, as far as we're concerned, this is a product that actually really needs to be sold to people. It's not something that, can be advertised on the internet, because of actually, when you think of all the work that's been put into it, and when you actually realise what the actual SmartMister is doing, it's something that really needs to be sold. So we are more than happy for people to utilise Ray, or even, me, to help with it as well, where we do something like this for your customers as well. That's not a problem at all to do that, because I know that whenever anyone's actually heard Ray speak and understood actually, the standards that this lives up to, they get absolutely behind it, and now we're into almost the thousands of these being sold now. So it's such a strong range of products, and it's something that actually, with everyone starting to go back to work, we look at hairdressers, with these kind of ones and the others, all these kind of things that are going back to work, just to keep people feeling that little bit safe, I think is really important.
Yeah, it's good, and my number's dropping down now, 900. Yeah, so it lingers in the air for a long time. Even when I always call it the Ghostbuster
sensor. I always feel.
Yeah, so we are going to come up with ones in the future of wall-mounted versions, and a clean air score that will go to the WELL standard. So we'll probably be releasing those in about May, and they'll give you a wall-mounted and a dashboard, etc. So there's a few things to come out as well. It's not just this and then forget it. there's a whole range of products that we're building upon. And then we're applying for all of the new standards as they come out. So
I mean, that standard that you talked about earlier isn't even out yet, is it?
no, that's not. We were one of the guinea pigs for it. So we were on the beta test. We were one of the companies that asked the government and the British Standards Advisory Board for it, because we need a standard that's for air quality to match the new Clean Air Act and the wellbeing standards. And there wasn't a standard, so we were one of the people that pushed for it. And then along with a professor at the university who's helping us basically go through the biocide side of it and some of the technical stuff. We're ahead of the curve on it all.
Cool.
It's us and one other company that does germ warfare that are applying for the same standard.
Germ
The other one
warfare.
the other one just does military defence. So they're basically deploying this to make sure soldiers don't catch anything.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah.
So anyone got any other questions, or is it time to wrap it up? This is quite a quiet one. Normally we get some quite decent. Someone tries to throw Ray off with a question, but he always seems to throw it back at them.
Yeah, come on, ask me something. Otherwise it's not questions and answers, it's just me yapping.
Well, we always like to hear you, Gabby.
I could pick on Graham. What about you, Graham? Ask me a question. I can see your face.
I suppose the only one of the first few questions would be that how long, when the surface is covered, how long does it stay sanitized, right?
The standards, the 14476 standard says that it needs to persist for 100 touches. So after this has gone off, what you do is you wipe it with a micro cloth, which is 8 microns. You wipe it with that, yeah, and that wipes off there. And then after that, I can rub 100 times before it's gone down enough so that it doesn't make a difference. So in time, in a say like a classroom, the school kids are rubbing their elbows on it and things, that generally works out about an hour. And the standard says you've got to do it for an hour. The reality is we were 3 hours on the light switches that you're turning on and off for 100 times. And we were 18 hours on a bookshelf that wasn't getting touched much. So it lasts for a minimum of 1 hour, normally about 3 hours. But the legal government standard is 1 hour after people have wiped it off. So if you don't wipe it off, 18 hours. And if you put your elbows on the desk and you're rubbing it, and then you swab it on that bit you've been rubbing like crazy, then it's a minimum of 1 hour after it. And then it's all on your elbow then. So your elbow's sanitized. And we give people little stickers that you can basically say sanitize with SmartMister, the date, time, asset number, sorry. So they can actually record it in a book as part of the methodology of saying this surface has been sanitized. And in the box, we give you a thing to put on a desk or a door. And then basically you swab in here, scan in this database. If you want to join the national track and trace database, not everybody does. And then basically send that off to us or a lab and then do a swab test. And that will prove how long it's lasted on the surface as well, if you wanted to.
And that's the one to insurance level standards as well, isn't it, Sam?
Yeah, that's really, if say like a school that's told there's an outbreak in your classroom and year number 3 has to close down because little Joey's got virus and Fred's got a virus and they're both in the same class. And the only place the two will come together is this classroom. So you have to close your classroom down, generally £3,000 later, and a couple of days later you open up. And this, you'll do a swab before, prove that it's bad. Run the SmartMister for 20 minutes in the classroom, leave it for 20 minutes, go in, normally wipe down a few of the surfaces, like light switches with this, and then swab in the area. And then when you swab in the area, take that off. The database then gives you a thing that you can open up again. And that's it.
Absolutely.
And we put it in the cardboard box with the machine. We give you like stickers that you can put in the windows and doors and things as well. So it's a bit. So the quick answer is an hour to 18 hours, depending on how much you wipe it off.
Fab. Okay, so if there's not any more questions from anyone, we will start to wrap it up here. Like I say, you will. Oh, sorry, right?
Sorry, what is the lifespan of the SmartMister? as a unit? And
So I don't know the answer because we've only been doing it since May of last year. The device originally comes from an industry that has a 5-year lifespan. It's sold as a humidifier into hotels in Japan and some bits of China, and we've taken that, modified it. So I expect it to be about 3 years, somewhere in about that. If it's maintained, probably about 5 years. There's only 2 moving parts that can go wrong. The filter in the back, you might have to change it's 30,000 litres of transfer of it. So that might be like 4 or 5 years. There's an air circulation fan that might have to be cleaned out, or that could break. That has a 5-year lifespan, and the transducer is 25 years. So it's probably somewhere between 3 and 5 years.
Is that based on the using it once a month?
That's using it 7 days a week for up to 2 hours. So we did the mean time to breakdown based on we hired a machine that breaks things quicker, and basically vibrates, and it puts dust in, and it changes the ions, and it does all the bad things. And it, based on the reaction of that, and based on what it's supposed to last, we basically doing the presumption that because we've not been selling it for 5 years, we don't know how long it lasts. There's a seal in it that we reinforce. So there was a weak point in the design when we got the finite element analysis tool done of it, and then we reinforced that, and we've taken measures to try and make it last longer. And as long as if you say we do a rental version of this, and the rental version comes with a 3-year warranty, and it comes with a maintenance kit, which is sterile cloths, so cloths with no lint, and a certain amount of abrasiveness to them, an ultrasonic wand to get rid of any salt deposits that build up in crystallization, and then some isoproethanol of a certain thickness that will break down any salt that comes on, and then basically take a microcloth to wipe off the HEPA filter, etc. So if you maintain it by cleaning that every month, when you run out of liquid, I think it will be somewhere between 3 and 5 years, but it will be at least 3 years.
Yeah.
I can't see it being any less than that. Even on the one, we've done no maintenance, and we've tried to make it dirty, and we've got it in a dirty environment that's open to the air, that has oil in the air. That one's been running since April last year. We've never ever cleaned it in the inside, and it's still working. And that runs for 2 hours a day, every day. So it's our guinea pig machine. And then we've got another guinea pig machine that runs for 1 hour per day. And then we're comparing the differences between the two of them. So don't know the answer, but somewhere between 3 and 5 years.
No, fine, thank you.
Right. Sorry, I didn't quite catch. Was that a warranty for 3 years on the big machine?
Yes, we do a rental version of this that people that are doing that are charging up front and then charging monthly through a leasing company. And for that one, we do a 3-year warranty in the box. So you get this, and you get the maintenance kit and a 3-year warranty and a different serial number on the bottom of it. And you can also on the app record the issues and things as well. So we do a same product. It's just different things in a cardboard box. It's just a different product code and different number.
And that's only through leasing, is it? You only get a 3-year warranty.
No, you can absolutely. You can buy the 3-year warranty, no problem at all, and then do it whichever way you want to do it. So the standard warranty is 1 year, and then you can upgrade to the 3-year warranty. Like Ray says, there are a lot of customers that are putting it through on a lease, and I know Siemens and Grenke are the two that have actually really got behind the product. But obviously, to put it on a lease, you would generally want something like an extra period of warranty with it. So that's why they put that extra warranty in it, and we're more than happy to honour that, aren't we, Ray?
Yes, and that model's got a little sheet that will specify how you do the maintenance and the cleanliness of it. Yeah. So you've got to fill a little book in that records that you've done the maintenance, so that it covers it for the lease company. So it's just the same product, but it's an extra added value if you want to extend the warranty. That's all.
Okay, makes
Yeah,
sense.
and like I say, selling it as, rather than just as a unit on its own, it's selling it as a continued consumable source for you, isn't it, that way? So yeah, and that's what a lot of the dealers are doing with it. Absolutely.
Okay, thank you.
Cool.
Yep.
No worries. Well, okay, so we'll
Pardon?
start. Over there. Oh, someone else?
Yeah, no, not me. No.
No, okay.
Cheers.
So, like I say, you will all receive a little email afterwards, just outlining, you know, that you've been on the meeting today, and you'll also get some flyers on all 3 products and a link to our YouTube website. If you've got any pricing queries, like I say, if you go back to your account manager and speak to them about any prices on any of the products we've talked about today. But me and Ray and Stuart would just like to thank you all for coming on this morning, and hopefully we'll see you all again soon.
Thank you for your time.
No worries.
See you later.
Take care.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you.
See you later.